here's how to determine the fair price to get from your sibling. There's other expenses that go into owning the house. Now, what to do if your sibling doesn't have money to buy you out of the house? You guys might have to go before a judge or get a court administrator. So you just inherited a house and you want to sell it, but your sibling wants to keep it. Here's what you can do. First thing you can do is, if you want to sell it and your sibling wants to keep them, sell it to your sibling, okay? Assuming there's just two of you, maybe there's four of you, you own a share of that property. So let's say there's two of you, you own 50% of that property, and let's say the property is worth $100,000, you can sell it to your sibling for $50,000. In this way, you get your money and your sibling is able to keep it. Now, here's how to determine the fair price to get from your sibling. So you might be thinking, okay, the house is worth $100,000, I get $50,000. No, that is not the case. There's other expenses that go into owning the house. So let's break it down. So the house is worth $100,000. Most likely there's a mortgage. Let's say the mortgage is $20,000. So now you're at $80,000. And let's say the property needs repairs. Let's say the property needs $30,000 in repairs. So you need $30,000 in repairs. There's $20,000 mortgage. So there's $50,000 left. Okay, so are you guys following? So if the property is worth $100,000, you're only getting $25,000 from your sibling because your sibling has to pay for $20,000 on the mortgage and $30,000 in repairs. So it might not seem fair because you're getting less, right? It seems like they're getting $75,000, but they're paying for those things. Now, that's where the benefit of owning real estate comes in, because over time, that $100,000 property in 30 years might be worth $500,000. Just look at your neighborhood, okay? Think about what those properties were selling for in 1930, for example, what land was worth in 1930, now it's 2025, okay? So it's not always in your benefit to sell the property. I definitely understand if you need the money right away. Now, what to do if your sibling doesn't have money to buy you out of the house? Here are things that you can advise your sibling to do. The first thing you can advise your sibling to do is to get a loan from a bank. The bank is most likely going to be willing to lend your sibling money and use the property as collateral. So if your sibling doesn't have good credit, they can always repair their credit. It's going to take about 6 months to do that, and then they can get a loan from the bank and buy you out of the property. Okay. Another thing your sibling can do if they don't have the money to buy you out of the property, or you guys can't wait 6 months for them to fix their credit, or maybe their credit is so bad that it's unfixable. When is credit unfixable? If the person doesn't have money to pay down their credit cards, or they're currently behind on their bills. Okay, if they're behind on their bills, every month the credit is getting worse and worse, even if you're fixing. It's like trying to pour water in a bucket that has a hole. Anyway, with that said, what they can do is they can partner with an investor. So what the investor is going to do is they're going to give your sibling the money to buy you out of the property. So essentially the investor is now going to be co-owners with your sibling, and then your sibling can go fix the credit and do whatever they need to do with the investor to buy the investor out of the property. Now, I don't necessarily recommend doing this because now your sibling is co-owners with an investor, and that investor might say, well, the repairs on $30,000, they're $40,000. Okay, now your sibling might lose more money than they would have got if they just went through you. But if your sibling is thinking long-term, then they'll be fine if they're gonna keep the property for 20 to 30 years. Now, if all these things fail, you can't find an investor that they wanna partner with, they can't fix their credit, and they don't have the money, then you guys might have to go before a judge or get a court administrator to force the sale of the property, okay? Because if your sibling cannot upkeep the property and you want to sell it, you might have to fight it out in court. I hope you obviously don't get to that point because that's your sibling, and that would be the logical last step if you want to sell the property and your sibling wants to keep it. Usually when it gets to that point, your sibling has to cave in because there's nothing that can be done if you guys are not getting along. And if you guys don't have your own attorneys, an administrator from the court will be appointed, and they're going to dictate what's going to happen to your property. They're going to go with their timeline, and they will take money out of your inheritance to pay for the costs of having an administrator on your property.